I'm the director for Sametime Development, and we have on the Meet the Developers session today here for Sametime, lots of our developers, along with our product manager, Guinea Saini. So welcome everybody. I hope you've gotten a chance to see Sametime in action in the coffee rooms this week, and we're obviously really excited about the 11.5 release. Today for the Meet the Developers, we are going to we'll be answering questions, so please put your questions in the chat area. But what we had yesterday was a show the code session where Ron Pontrich and Chris Price were kind of giving a walkthrough on the new Sametime meetings code and how it functions. And it was a 15-minute session. We didn't really get to cover a whole lot there, so we're going to start off today by doing a little bit more presentation on the Sametime client and server code, and then we'll answer questions along the way and save time at the end for questions. So, you want to lead us off with some Sametime client coverage?
Sure. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I think we're just going to kind of, like Barry mentioned, pick up a little bit where we left off yesterday, just kind of talking through some of how the meetings offering that we just released is built. We'll talk. I'll kind of, as I'm stepping through it today, though, I'll probably just describe a little bit more of the features and kind of functionality within the meeting client itself, and maybe even a little bit of the chat client. But the idea here is I'm going to just kind of show you, the APIs we've added, how we're calling them from our user interface, and then later, after I'm finished, I'll turn it over to Chris, and he'll give you some more details just on how that's kind of available to people to use, and some other cool things. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So this is our this is the kind of the welcome page, I guess, for the login page for our meetings application. And let me go ahead and log in, or actually, let me go ahead and show the developer console, basically. So what we've added here for Sametime meetings is we've added what we've called this meetings catalog API. So there's an authentication flow that we in our application go through, which basically authenticates with the server using JWT. So when I log in, you'll see that I'll type the password correctly. You'll see that there's a bunch of requests to do a check and a refresh. And so this basically just authenticates our users to the application. And Chris will kind of touch on this a little bit later, but that's how we get authenticated to the app. The page that I'm showing now is our home page. And so whenever somebody logs in to the meetings client, they'll be presented with a list with this UI that basically allows them to either to quickly join a meeting, to create a new meeting, or to see the recently joined meetings that they have and join there as well. So we've kind of made it easier for people to kind of just very quickly be able to get into a meeting. And you'll see, as I demonstrate here in a second, when I click this new meeting link, just really how easy it is, I guess, to kind of create a meeting and get into it. So if I click new, I'm going to go ahead and just give my meeting a name, and you'll see that we're basically trying to check to see if a meeting already exists in the catalog. So if somebody already has claimed it, or if it already existed in my list and it's in use, then I won't be able to create it. So if I save it, you'll see that that this post happens to the meeting catalog API with various information about the meeting. And so I guess let me kind of backtrack a little bit here and just show you some of what is available on this create form. So when you create a new meeting, you have the option of giving it a few things. So you can add a password, and this basically just is a very easy way to quickly add a password and add some security to your meeting. And you can also give it the option of whether it's moderated or not. And what this means, as you can see here, is if it is put into a moderated mode, the person that's created the meeting, which we designate as the meeting owner, is really the only person that can control some of the aspects of the settings of the meeting. But once they join the meeting, and I'll show that in a few minutes, they'll have the capability to make other people moderators, to add, to grant people presenter roles, things like that. But But on the initial create screen, we just kind of give you this information to be able to add a password and to set this flag of whether it's moderated or not. And an open meeting is the other kind of mode. If moderated isn't checked, it's considered open. And basically that means that anybody can join that meeting, and they'll all be treated equally as moderators and can share and present content. One important distinction, I guess, when you join a meeting that is moderated versus open, in a moderated meeting, only one person can present at a time. If it's open, then multiple people can actually present or share their screen at the same time. So, and we also have all of those capabilities kind of available here in the edit UI too. So these are all the meetings that I've created. And I guess one other important distinction for this last meeting you see in our list here, this is a provisioned meeting for myself. So in an organization, you can basically have what's called personal room kind of provisioned initially, so that people don't even really have to create a new meeting, and you can define, and this kind of is assigned to the user. It cannot be deleted. So you can see here that we can't delete it. So it's basically your assigned room for within your organization. So anyway, that kind of just, I guess, maybe shows, how we kind of create and basically get our meetings established here, and our API that we kind of call to set or to create and to kind of list these meetings. I can, for example, if I click delete, it does the same sort of thing. We have different APIs that allow us to update, whether this is basically getting the meeting list after I've issued a delete. So it's only going to show my meetings that are left, right? So having shown, I guess, all of sort of the meeting sort of management things, let me jump into a meeting and kind of describe what we have in terms of APIs and how we've kind of built on top of sort of the open source Jitsi platform and extended and added this sort of moderatorship sort of layer to that application. So I'm going to go ahead and join this guy. See the loading screen. You can watch all the network traffic that's going on here. I'd already allowed my mic and camera to be allowed, but one of the, I guess, just if anybody has not seen this is our sort of meeting UI, and we default to like a toggle view when you first join. So if more people are joining, you'll see that my if I turn my camera on, this is me, so it'll have myself. But if other people are here, there'll just be basically a lot of squares of people that are in the meeting. You can mute, do all of those sorts of things. We've kind of extended the way that the Jitsi client behaves. We've customized it. We've added our own sort of protocol handling within the meeting, and we also make use of that meeting catalog API that I was describing before. So just real quick, I guess, in terms of features, you'll see in the participant list over here that, let's see, can I get that away? You'll see that I have myself. There are various menu options. If I have somebody else join this meeting, there will be the option to make them a presenter or a moderator. And this designates that I'm an owner. And if somebody else comes in, well, there are other designations that kind of we indicate with a UI icon telling people in the meeting if they're an owner, moderator, presenter, or guest user, since it's important to sort of distinguish who the guest users are. So kind of to, maybe describe real quick how this page is sort of built. We've extended, like I mentioned, sort of the Jitsi client, which is built using, WebRTC, and that's the audio video mechanism that we're using to join this meeting. But one of the things that we've done is there's this iframe that we kind of load that WebRTC client, and this is where we kind of interact with all of the elements on the page. So we've wrapped this in a lot of different UI elements, including our own chat component. So I'll demonstrate that here in a minute. But we have this chat UI. We have the bar at the top that kind of will show if I'm talking. It'll indicate that, and other people are talking. The participants panel, like I mentioned, and then we've also customized this toolbar completely. So we basically rewrote a lot of this user interface. In terms of like protocol that within the meeting itself, there are a few different ways that we pass data around to participants in the meeting. And one of them is the meeting catalog API that I was just describing. So there are ways that, for example, that if I wanted to do something like, let's see, if I wanted to do something like mute this meeting, or lock this meeting, you'll see a request go to the meeting catalog to actually mute the meeting. I mean, to lock the meeting. And so the data structure in the meeting is a little bit different than outside the meeting. You see this active meeting object, and we keep track of a bunch of the information, like whether it's locked, who it's locked by, maximum occupants. We actually have a setting on the server that you can restrict the number of people that are allowed in the meetings at a server level. In this particular case, it's wide open, so we don't have it limited on the server I'm hitting. And then right now there's only one participant. There's the place ID that we use to actually join the Sametime chat that I'll show here in a second, and then you'll see the update. So if I was to unlock this again, you'll see a second update come in with a different sequence number. So we kind of keep track of all of the the information that's the current state of the active meeting object is kept on the server, and it communicates to the clients, kind of telling us what the latest version of that data is. And that's how we render this on the other clients. So real quick, so that's one of the APIs that's being used here. We actually have, like I mentioned, we're using Jitsi for some of the, for the backend server and the WebRTC sort of implementation that it had out of the box that we've extended. And so you'll see a lot of different, on the network tab, you'll see this HTTP bind request. And so they have a long poll that sits out there that we've extended. And it's one of the ways that we communicate other information in this meeting to affect the UI display and to send events to just people that we need to communicate to for this current meeting state. So you'll see the long poll continuing for this HTTP bind. And if I was to actually unmute myself here, you'll see that that long poll actually gets fulfilled. And if you look down for the audio muted sort of attribute, it's false now, right? And if I was to kind of select the next long poll that's sitting out here and mute it, actually it should be that one. You'll see that got set back to true, right? So there are certain events that we pass around using the Jitsi protocol. There's certain events that we trigger using our own catalog API. And then the third sort of API that we're using is this chat capability. So if people that are maybe familiar with our Sametime chat application, web application in the past, we do have this, what we call a proxy server. And what it has available, and if you've used that SDK, it has this RTC servlet. So we have a long poll that also exists out there for that. And we use it to basically communicate any sort of chat messages that happen within a meeting. So if I send a chat, you'll see this, oops, I have the wrong one selected, but you'll see like an update come in for the chat messages that are being sent, right? This is a convo map, and you'll see Buzz Lightyear had an update, all of that information. And there's the name of the in-way text and that the message test was sent. And I just so happen, I guess, to be logged in to our web chat client, and you'll see that for every time that a group chat happens within the meeting, we've correlated that with an in-way chat that we create and is active actually in the meeting itself. So one obviously cool thing here is that if other people are having conversation in here, that chat gets persisted, it gets stored in your chat client, and you can actually continue the conversation here even if you're not in the meeting. It'll stick around for as long as you want to keep it around after the meeting. You can leave the place, and then if there were other people in here, I could get the participant list, and it would show me who's actively in this in-way chat. So that's kind of how how all this stuff is really built and tied together. We've done a lot of customization, like I said, to the Jitsi UI itself. We've extended the protocol to support all of these sort of very important security functionality that we've talked about, like, for example, the lock the meeting, setting the password, being able to control who the presenters and participants, I'm sorry, moderators are. And a lot, and I guess one other important thing that we've added too is on this, if you're the owner of the meeting, on the settings dialog, you do have the ability to restrict whether guests can join or not join the meeting. So we have this on this settings menu too. Let's see. I think, yeah. So I think that maybe covers a lot of what I wanted to just to kind of show in the meeting. The other, and I'll transition to Chris in a second, but the one other thing I did want to mention is we do, like I said, we do have our chat client, and we do kind of have this sort of persisted, this in-way persisted in the chat client. And one thing that we did for this release of Sametime is we also have our PWA client. And so I did go ahead and install that here. And you can see that this is, basically our HCL Sametime application as a PWA. It's pinned to your desktop. And it has all the same functionality that our web client has. It just does a more aggressive caching for some of the resources that are on the page. It allows you to pin it to your OS taskbar, basically. So anyway,
hey Ron, can you show
Chris.
real quick the integration with meetings in chat here too?
The integration with meetings in chat.
Yeah, just
yeah, you're right. Okay,
is to start a meeting with somebody in here.
Yeah, good point. So the other thing, I didn't really have anything prepared on for this user, but you can see, like, what I was showing you earlier on this sort of auto provisioned meeting room. Like, let me actually leave this meeting and go back to the page, right? You'll just to show that the recent meeting does show here now. I had the meet me with my username, and it kind of gets auto provisioned. So the one thing that we kind of have tied into our chat client is that also shows up here too. And so if you want to, for example, if I'm in a conversation with, I guess this is with Woody. If I come over here, if I come over
here too, you see Chris in there.
Oh yeah, hey Chris. I can send it to Chris or Woody or whoever. But if I actually define, there's this meeting settings that we have here that has your list of meetings. You can add more meetings, and they're basically just URLs to different resources. But we do have the auto provision one automatically show up here, so it just makes it really easy for people to be in a chat with someone. Click this, which will actually put the Meet Me Here link into the meeting, and it'll join you into that meeting. And then you'll see that I'm joined over here as Woody, as Buzz Lightyear. I click this, it'll join me into the same meeting. So that's,
I use this every day, multiple times a day with Sametime. It's one of the most, it's the coolest feature. Obviously, if your company already uses Sametime chat for its communication backend, adding meetings to this thing, you never pick up a phone again. You click and talk to people. It's called a meeting, but I use it for voice all the time.
Yeah, like, so for example, I can copy this meeting link for the new 3, and just to show you the other UI, because this only had one meeting, so when I click this button, it automatically put it there. If you had other links that you wanted to add, you can, just give it a name, click add. It'll show up in your list of meetings here, and have the option. You can basically pick which one you want to send to somebody. So this kind of gives you a little bit of flexibility with some of the settings that I was describing earlier, where if you do want to have an open meeting that you create for yourself that has certain configurations that allows guests or doesn't allow guests, or is open versus moderated, or has a password or doesn't have a password you use for meetings throughout your day, you can create them, add them to the UI to be able to be sent very quickly to people and just jump into the meetings. As you've seen, as I've been joining these meetings in this demo, it's just super fast to get into them. So
the one thing that happens, and for me, it usually worked out with the other party, because you always start with the chat, and so you say, "Hey, can you talk?" And then the next step is who clicks the meet button first. And sometimes you both click it, and you end up in each other's, room. But you figure that out pretty quickly. I think, Ron, you decided the first person to click wins, right?
Yeah. And we're talking about, improving the way that some of this stuff works and integrating it a little bit tighter, but it's really easy right now. So we'll keep improving it. I think that was all I was going to show, Chris. I think I'll turn it over to you. All right.
Okay, that's great. And I don't know if the moderator can give me permission to share, and I'll share my screen.
Yeah. To
Thanks,
Chris?
Peter. Yep, I see you. All right, so now I'm going to share. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the backend APIs. I think we want to make sure there's plenty of time for people to ask questions. But we do ship Swagger-based documentation for our APIs on the server. You can turn it off if you want to, but it's there by default. I'm going to start by talking about authentication. We do use JWT authentication now in Sametime, and we use cookie-based. So there's a Sametime JWT cookie. In fact, I'll just show it to you. If anybody is familiar with JWT, it's obviously a web standard for authentication. So you can see the cookie here if you open up your inspector. And with any JWT token, because it is kind of a standard, you can actually go and open up this cool service called JWT IO, and you can paste cookies in the encoded section here. And it will show you all the details that are encoded in that cookie. So this basically gives me all the information about who I am, what's my Sametime ID, what's my display name, personal room, do I have an avatar, that kind of thing. Important here is roles. With Sametime, if you have the meetings capability in the policy for the user object, that they have the access to meetings, then they will be a moderator when they access the meeting server. And that means they're allowed to create meetings, they'll be allowed to start meetings that either they have created, they are a moderator of, or an open meeting that hasn't been claimed by anyone. So anyway, just wanted to show you that stuff is in there. The data that's in this JWT cookie is signed by the server, and the servers kind of share a secret with each other. So one can sign a secret, or one can sign a token, and the other one can acknowledge that, oh yeah, I understand that the signer of this one is trusted. If you look at this JWT kind of debugger here, you'll see that this is invalid. And that's just because I haven't put the signature or the secret that was used to encode the secret here. If the secret was there, then it would check out as a valid signature. Anyway, I'll just go back over to the auth API and kind of show you what it does. So the check API, for instance, if you click try it out, this is all Swagger generated UI, so it's real easy to use, and you can just kind of experience what the REST APIs look like. You can either pass a room name to the check API or not, and if you pass it without one, then you're going to get basically the response is your user information with respect to the server. So like I said before, my role is that of a moderator. If I didn't have the policy turned on this server, then I wouldn't have any roles on this system. We also have this notion of I'm using air quotes here, you can probably see in the screen, authenticated guest. So when you connect to the server, you can log in as a guest, and that just basically gives you a display name. We generate a guest role token for that user, so we still know that they're a guest. We can track their display name, but we know they're not, they don't have any privilege to do anything on the server, like create a room or something. They can only join as a guest for rooms that are available for guest joining. You also have the ability to pass a room name in here. I'll put one in here that I'm not a moderator of, test meet 88. And if I use that, then you can see that maybe I am. Oh, did I type it right? Let's try this again. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not. Let's cancel and refresh. Maybe I added that user as a moderator to that room. Let me just check real quick. So anyway, what I'll do right now is join that room, and we can see. So I'll type the name of that meeting here, test meet 88, and we should see if this user is a moderator. This is an incognito browser, so I have to allow access to the mic and stuff. And if I go over and look, I can make moderator or revoke moderator access. And Let's go back to the API and check again. Actually, sorry. Yeah, try it out. Yeah, something's going on there. I'm not sure why it's showing me that I'm a moderator. Probably something with my account. We also have service access. So if you're writing any kind of a backend service, we do this for a couple of services in the meeting server, like recordings. So when a recording is available, we post a message in the chat that says, here's the download link for the recording or whatever. So we actually do use a service endpoint for that. And you can, there's a service registry on the backend server. You can put your own service name in there with the service secret that you generate. And then if you authenticate with that endpoint, you end up with the JWT token. And using a service endpoint, you can then use standard JWT auth bearer token. So you don't have to use a cookie. You can just put it in the HTTP authentication header as a bearer token. And that'll get you in. If I go back to the catalog API, real quick, I'll just kind of go over a couple of things there. This is just kind of a standard REST interface. The GET request is, with no extra information, is going to get you a list of all your meetings. So I'll execute that real quick, and you can see that I just have one meeting here. It's my own. Oh, I think I see what the problem is. I'm on ST Meet Next on this. So that's why I didn't have, let's go back to STPOC. That's why my APIs didn't work. So if I look back now, I should see multiple meetings here in this one. So try it out, execute, and so there's my list of meetings. And just to make sure that I'm haven't lost my sanity, if I go back to auth and do a check, validate, this time I'll use the test room that I should not be a moderator of, and check for roles. And back at ST Meet Next. A back button works as intended. Search for my sanity, I have lost it. There we go. So on this room, I have no particular role. Yeah, so that's kind of the catalog. Let me just real quick, we can go and look at.
Hey, Chris. One thing
Yeah,
I
go
wanted
ahead.
to mention, could you maybe talk about the recordings? I meant to bring that up in how the server handles those and some of that.
So specifically the question about recording. So you can record a meeting if you're a moderator. There are two types of recordings, either a recording that is stored on the server and is hosted by a recordings service that is included in the meeting server, or there's the notion of a live stream, which allows you to stream the recording to YouTube servers. And then they'll be either available for live broadcast, so you can kind of watch the meeting. It's a little bit of a delay, 10-second delay or so, but you can see the meeting live, and it streams to large audiences, and then it's also captured as a recording there. But specifically, do you mean the recording APIs, Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not documented here, but you can both stream, download, and delete recordings. You have to be a room owner in order to delete a recording, but you can play it back if you're, you have access to the recording link. Was there anything particular you wanted to ask other than that?
No, the only other thing I guess is that we do push the links into the chat at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, that's right. So I mentioned earlier, we do have this service token thing that we use on the meeting server. So when you do finish a recording, when a recording is finished, you stop or whatever, we post a link to that recording in the persistent chat. So it's available at that time for anybody still in the meeting who can click and play it, download it, whatever. But it's also available in the persistent chat, which sticks around in your Sametime client for as long as you want to keep it, or if you leave it, then it'll go away from you. So I don't know, did we want to kind of pause and see if there are any questions from folks, or have we been answering stuff okay in the background? I don't know, Barry, if you've got any.
Yeah, I think it's fine to we'll continue to answer questions. People can put them in the chat. Maybe we can expand on some of the themes of the questions that were being asked. I was just commenting on one. There was a question about admin controls related to people creating meetings and perhaps not using them. And like Tony responded, we'll be working to enable admin controls to do meeting room management and cleanup and that sort of thing. But what we've seen based on using this now for the better part of half a year or more is that typically people create one or two rooms, and it's this offering is so simple and just so usable. You create a room, you save the URL, and you use it for everything. And so if you want a moderated meeting or a password protected meeting, you can create those. But what we don't see is that people create a lot of meetings and actually save them and claim those meetings, because then if you go to the homepage and it shows my meetings, you'll just have this really long list of meetings, right? And so it's just click to delete them. That's I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that, what they've seen from personal experience and use, but there's really no value to the end user to go create a bunch of rooms, because it just pollutes your list of meetings on the landing page. And
yeah, that was kind of
the
point I was getting at. That was kind of the point I was getting at earlier. When I was showing it in the chat client, I think I have two rooms or two meetings, right? One that's pretty much open and one that's locked down. I use either one of them depending on the audience I'm going to be joining with. So that's really it.
Right. Same here. Now that we've got the pre-provisioned meeting room that's automatically in your rich client for, my meeting room, and it's tied to your name. That's the one that gets used most of the time for me. And then I've got my own special little wizards room that I kind of keep around as a joke. But so I have two rooms, and I use the one that's easiest to type at the time, or I just click the button that says "Meet me here," and everybody's in my room.
And one note I want to make on this personalized or provisioned room that we always do for you. There are two options for that. One is sort of a familiar name, and if you look at the format of the way this thing looks, it's like an email address. There are certain special characters that aren't allowed in a room name, so we kind of transform some of those. But it's visibly Chris Price, and so somebody can look at that and see whose room it is. They could type it in, for instance. Not that people usually type these things in. They usually click links that are in calendar entries and stuff like that. But there is another option to make that a secure random meeting room. And so then when users join the proxy or the meeting server, the proxy will provision a secure random identifier for you. So then you can still use it. It's still your personal room, but it cannot be somebody who just scraped that URL off something's not going to know who it belongs to.
Yeah, and point taken on the delete rooms thing. There's, we could enable that fairly easily. So that I think Kenny, let's make sure that's on the short list. This is we
Yeah,
need
the
all
other thing
this
I'll comment on is we have this API that's great out there too, right? So anybody can use these same APIs that we do to do whatever kind of additional management, either room create or delete, that they want to do.
I was going to say, Chris, we just haven't formalized that and documented it or enabled any UI, but the capability exists.
Yeah, we'll need to do it, right? And in a future release, we'll need to have some better admin controls there.
Right, and absolutely, Rob, I was going to say, Rob, point taken, and not all users behave like adults, right? We get that. So yeah, it'll be nice to have, put a limit on the rooms for sure. Go ahead, Tony.
I was just going to make a similar joke or a comment about Rob not trusting his users to behave good. Yeah, we certainly understand that very well.
Yeah, the one thing is that you can take some, solace in, I guess, is that these things don't cost any money. There's no, by creating a new room item, you're just adding a record to a Mongo database, and you're not going to run out of space for those, right? So, unless you've got somebody with a really fast trigger finger and can click and create so many of these things. But anyway, so just because you created a room doesn't mean you've allocated any server resources or anything like that for it. So it just populates the list and makes it maybe uglier to look at if you've got too many of them.
Right. There's absolutely no storage or persistence to these rooms, and they're only active when people are in the room.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I don't know, Tony, if you want to take that, or Barry, there were questions about, the whole instant meeting where it says your own personal room, right? If they are unique or if they stay after meeting's done. I think there's some questions around that.
Well, so if you just in your browser enter a URL to start a meeting or join somebody else's room that's already been, active. So I've sent you a URL in a client, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are not persistent rooms. So if up in the top where you say start or join a meeting and you type the meeting room name and you click join, that is just a one instance room as a rule. Obviously, if I've typed somebody else's, the only time a room name is persisted is if you click the new button and then create that room name. So like up in the start join meeting, I could type Chris Price and I would join Chris Price's room. And obviously because Chris has reserved that name, it is a reserved name that Chris owns. If I type in Chris Price 2, then it is an instant room and it's just nobody owns it necessarily. So that, or if you use the generate meeting name, so it's always unique.
Yeah, and I'll put that one up here too, right? Generate meeting name just generates a random kind of GUID for a meeting. So if you're worried about security and don't want to reuse a room name, or you're afraid about, passing off a name that somebody might use in the future when you don't intend for them to, you can always just generate a unique one. And then you get copy meeting link. You can easily send that around, right? It's on your clipboard, so you can send it around and get somebody to join via calendar link or whatever. So that's a kind of a neat feature. And like Tony said, once you use it, if you never go there again, then it's gone, right? It doesn't exist anymore. But you could always go back, right? That's the thing too. If you wanted to use this every Tuesday at 4:30, put it in your calendar entry for your meeting that happens at 4:30, and that link is going to still be usable by anybody who wants to use it.
Right, and that correct me if I'm wrong. That is a generic open meeting room with no
Correct.
permissions other than the first person in gets to set them.
That's correct. Yeah.
But
You
if you
could,
wanted
if you wanted to take that and go over to in this case, the persistent API, and go and I didn't talk about the CSRF token, so I can do that. But now I will own this room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's open right now unless I change it to moderated, right? And now that fancy GUID is going to be a room that I own and is moderated. We didn't put that in our UI for converting this into an owned room. We talked about it at some point, being able to kind of claim a room while you're there, but we don't have that in the UI right now.
But Chris, if you
Right.
wanted to, you could copy that generated string and then go click the new button in the UI.
Right.
Oh, put it
And-
there. Sure, I can do that.
And
Yeah,
put it, so click new and then paste it in. And then
absolutely.
if you click the save and copy meeting link, at that point
Now
you've claimed that room. It shows up in your list. You own it, and you've really kind of avoided the need for typing passwords, because now you share that URL around, and it's more secure than a password typically. And
Right, that becomes hard to guess, right? I mean, that's another.
yeah, you've just taken ownership of an obscure named room that you can put in your calendar entries, and it just avoids your meeting attendees having to type in a password.
Right, or you could even add extra layer of security of having not only a very hard to guess meeting room name, but make the moderated features that there's a password required and I must be there type of thing.
Yeah,
So you can make it, you can add layers of security.
I think it's maybe important to note that right now, even if you create a meeting, there's no real data that sticks around after that meeting's over that you wouldn't prevent you from just keep using it over and over again. Even nobody can get to content that was in a room or when they joined a meeting if they joined it at a later time that they shouldn't have access to. The chats that get created for each meeting instance are unique to that instance. When the meeting ends, if and when the meeting ends, then the next time it's started or invoked again, a new chat is created. So there's one per sort of meeting session.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ron.
Right.
That's a good point, Ron.
These tools are all about protecting who can join my room so that I can make sure that only the people I want in there have joined, as well as who can do things within the room, whether or not they can share their screen.
Right, and I've heard from users too, Ron, and a lot of customers, right, where the question is, if I'm using my personal room, there's chat, will others see that chat if I start the room again? And the answer is no, because the chat will be gone from the meeting room.
That's right. I mean, that's right. Everything is it's instance based right now. It's a one-time thing. The URL is the thing that persists, and the starting and stopping. There's a new one each time. We've talked about extending that to have more persistent capability, like you mentioned, getting where the chat would be brought back in if we wanted it to. But right now, that's not the case.
Right. And if there are folks have any ideas around that feature or functionality, please feel free to create an AHA idea, obviously.
And those things, they'll be pulled in as part of the evolution and, the digital office vision, where we have, more different persistence models. But like you said, then, the way we use it internally, at least these days, like I have a berry room, and I click save on that just to keep someone else from taking it over and putting a password on it and keeping me out. But it's wide open. We pop in, we use it, we chat, and that chat gets saved to our same time persistent chat history. But then we end the meeting, and it's over. The chat we can still continue in same time. We continue the conversation in the persistent chat, but we join the Berry meeting again later for a completely different topic. It's a clean slate. So that pattern works really well. Just using one room, basically for everything with no password.
Yeah, and just to call out, I guess the chats that do get added to your Inway, they are given a name that is the room or the meeting name plus a timestamp. We did add the capability to be able to rename those. So from within the chat client, you can very easily rename it if you want it to be something more meaningful. But right now, they're just the name plus a timestamp.
Right. So one thing I did want to mention here to the folks is, earlier on, we've talked about these persistent names and where they're stored, and that MongoDB is in use. I want to make sure that folks are aware that if there's an issue with your meeting server getting to MongoDB, so this is a new requirement in 11.5 that was not in the pre-release. It's just a very important thing to remember that particular thing is now required, and if it's not available, then you might not be able to create or join a meeting until that's resolved. We've had a little bit of confusion there because it's a brand new thing and it's in the install, but people weren't ready for it. So just be aware.
Sounds good. Is there any other last minute comments? I know we're up the hour. We only have a minute left, looks like.
I just want to say it's been really a unique and interesting development process for this meetings offering, because we've used this every day. It's been a great tool, and as we've been writing the code to produce this meetings offering, it's been super useful just using it every day, and it's so easy to get into. And just want to reiterate how powerful I think it is, especially integrated with our chat piece.
Right, and I just want to say, Naeli asked a question if we could have used Sametime meetings, for example, for this session, and the answer is absolutely yes. And I think it would have been even a better user experience in that case. But yes, absolutely.
Now, Ron, I know you really want to bring back the browser plugins.
Yeah,
Everybody loves this. All right, I think we're almost up the hour. Peter, over to you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.